Welcome to One ABQ You, conversations, culture, and community. A City of Albuquerque production with your hosts, Mayor Tim Keller and me, Leah Black. Hello again.
Good to be back.
I wanted to talk about, I'm very excited about my community. My neighborhood is really becoming super walkable. Like, I've lived there forever, but it's finally, I call it growing up. And there's all these places now where, because I've always wanted somewhere where you can just like walk your dogs like a block to go grocery shopping or whatever. And that's finally happening in my neighborhood at 12th and Manal. And there's going to be an 18,000 square foot co-op, La Montanita co-op, and it's crazy. Anyways,
that is like the
really
talk
excited.
of the North Valley.
It is.
The co-ops
It really
moving.
is.
And you know, that awesome new roundabout, everyone hates the roundabouts till they're done.
Yeah.
And then they're like, this is great.
It's great.
And I actually go through there on purpose because then I don't have to stop at a light.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I'm like, why are people complaining about no light? Yeah.
But look, it's interesting because that is, you know, it's like 40 or 50 or 60 years in the making. I forget like how long that development's been happening. But there's so much going on actually in the urban native community, like across a number of fronts. And it's amazing because I think a lot of Braqueños are, you know, really keying in on what they see right at the cultural center and that growth. But what's also amazing is it's actually a little bit of sort of a renaissance on all sorts of nonprofits doing great things around healthcare and in different parts of the city. And so it's very cool because, of course, traditionally all Pueblo native land anyway that we're on. And so I think it's in many ways just a return to honoring all our history. And so it's great to see that in our city.
Which is a perfect intro because we are going to be speaking to a wonderful ambassador of the native urban community, Shannon Fleg. She's going to be on with us.
Awesome.
It smells amazing in here right now. We're going to talk about this, but I'd love to introduce everyone to our guest for this podcast episode. Shannon Fleg, you are a co-founder and board member of Native Health Initiative. You are a tireless advocate for the Native American community in Albuquerque. And we're going to talk about so many more things you do. You're a mother of 4. Thank you for coming. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'd just like to introduce myself, but before that, I'd like to offer gifts. This is actually lavender, Palo Santo, and cedar, and it's just for a reminder of our, connection to the land. And thank you to the, communities. And I say this, acknowledging the communities that are here in Albuquerque as the indigenous land keepers, but also the land is very important to us to make us a people to be here. But these are gifts for you all. They're used for smudging, and a lot of the community members share this. And so I offer this as a gift for your journeys and your travels, and just being able to also have space with community.
I'd also like for you to introduce yourself in your native language if you'd like.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whichever time you're listening to this. So I said my kinships are my relations of being able to acknowledge my Zuni Edgewater clan. That's from my mother's side. My father is actually the Towering House clan, and then my maternal grandfathers are the Mexican clan, or they sometimes say wandering people, and then my paternal grandfathers are the Black Creekwood. So I'm never, growing up with this aspect of connection with kinship. It's not just identification of 4 clans, but it's my mother, my father, my maternal and paternal grandparents. And then also that resignation of I'm never homeless, I'm always fed, I'm always in prosperity because of these kinships, and I'm also connected to people wherever I go. And so coming from the reservation to an urban lifestyle, I'm still connected very much to my community and where I come from. I'm, originally from outside of Tuba City, Arizona, the community that's called Monavi. Sometimes gets mixed up as Mojave, but it's Monavi. It's on the Navajo reservation. And I've been in Albuquerque for 16 years and make Albuquerque my home with my family, with my husband and our 4 children.
What brought you to Albuquerque?
So originally, I actually came because my husband was actually completing his residency in medical training. And the closest place we felt like coming home to and connecting with home was actually Albuquerque for the training. And so for me, that was very exciting because at first I was like, no, I don't want to come to Albuquerque. I kind of had some resentment, honestly. But when I began to be in my first year coming to Albuquerque, it was the Native community that took me in, took our family in. And I felt such a connection that the years have gone by. And I thought, we said we were only going to be here for 3 years, but we've been here for about almost 16 years. And so this is home. My mom and my father, who are back in my home community, actually have said, stay where you are. You're doing well. You're a strong Native woman in the presence of your community, and continue to do the work for the Native community wherever you are with your family. And she feels like this is kind of my home. I say I'm originally from, like I said, Arizona, but Albuquerque is home to me. So,
What just before we get into kind of health and some of these other things and the projects that you're working on, tell us a little about that, perception with Albuquerque. What were you worried about, actually, or what didn't you like? And then kind of what's won you over?
Yeah. And I think it was coming, as a young child coming through to Albuquerque. It was such a large city, coming from a reservation, small town, and then coming to visit relatives. But it may have been also the location that we were visiting, and I'm not too sure. I can't recall exactly where in the city we were coming to, but it was just that feeling of, oh no, Albuquerque, and then having to read about Albuquerque as far as like the crime rate, the population. But when I began to become part of Albuquerque, in the community, I say I become it because of this is where I am going to establish my home and my family and raise my children. I have to accept where I'm at right now and see that, crime also means, different levels. It's not just one thing, it's many things. And so when I began to read into that and not just these statistics, but actually identify and see community for who they are, I began to say, okay, this is where I see us growing.
And I think that you choosing to, even though you may not have picked this as your first choice, you choosing to stay here and embed yourself in the community, then you see the opportunities that you can help provide maybe solutions or help people on a different path.
Yes, and supporting. I think it's the commitment in both ways. It's reciprocity. It's actually the Native community also holding space for me and allowing me and my family to be where we are, to now be called trusted leaders or trusted community members. In that same way also is to trust the community to hold space for me and my family.
How did you first connect? So when you got here and, you mentioned sort of the urban Native community is really what helped you settle in. How did you find them, or how did that connection work?
So being a co-founder of the Native Health Initiative nonprofit organization, my husband and I came, and at that time it was a student organization. It was a grassroots organization. It had been sustained by the North Carolina Native community as well. And moving here, it actually was like 3 years of being able to be just a grassroots organization. And it was the community that we worked with and continuing that. And then a couple years later, Native leaders in the community, both rural and urban, actually said, you need to make your grassroots organization a nonprofit. And so it was the community that actually said, make this a nonprofit, not just for ourselves, but for the greater community, and the greater community in the sense of rural, urban, but rural and statewide as well.
And there was a definite need there. So how long ago was that? That was
in, we arrived in 2008, but then in 2010 is when we became, like, the actual organization became a nonprofit in 2010.
And tell us how you've grown since then. That's a good chunk of time that you've been really developing this.
Yes, and it wasn't just me alone, being a co-founder with my husband, Dr. Anthony Fleg, and then there are many, gatekeepers and leaders as Native, both rural and urban, that actually supported the works, and so it's all volunteer based. And so as a volunteer organization and running, and this year is going to be 19 years, but it's coming from, I actually moved away from the organization in 2022 when we hired our first executive director. And so moving from that, volunteer to now an employee run nonprofit organization, it's still flourishing, it's still being sustained by the community and for the community and with the community.
That's great.
Tell us a little bit about so for folks who are unfamiliar with, in general, the organization, give us the kind of 101, what does it do and how does it help folks?
Yes, and so the main thing was addressing health inequities through what the organization called Loving Service. And Loving Service could have been termed by however the community's seen it fitting. In the words of, that human to human element of wanting to serve. Some may say volunteering, volunteerism, service, but it was getting the community to act and really build on leadership and actually provide those services. And so it was utilizing the services with the community. And so like scholarship and grants, there was also the running medicine program that was created out of the nonprofit. There's also a post-collegiate program called Sports Warriors Track Club. And then there's also community asset mapping, and then indigenizing wellness. And so there's different components that the organization is addressing and being able to advance health careers, also with physical activity, being able to look at all ages, all abilities, and being inclusive. But
Wow.
I think it's a sense of belonging also. All of these
Absolutely
bring that sense of belonging
Yeah.
and community.
And tell us a little about that sort of running theme it comes out in the track piece or running medicine. And, I know there's all sorts of layers of connection to that, but, unpack it for us. Kind of take us back to why that's so important for health and also the connection to culture.
Yeah, and it actually, when we talk about grassroots and the way an initiative or a project gets started, it's not just, it's an idea, it's a thought. But my husband was riding a bike, and it took a bike, physical activity, when he was riding to one event when we were at another, gathering for our children around running. But one thing that came to mind was, why are we paying so much for a child to be doing physical activity? And it, not only him, but there were several other, post-collegiate community athletes, community champions that were really looking at how to build not just for youth, but for families. And so they came together, they volunteered in 2016 and said, let's begin to create this idea and theme of having people have low cost or no cost to be a part of a program. And so they began to really work together, and myself included, but it really took community coaches and families to be a part of this. And so it was like 10 to 12 weeks of running, walking together. It was really all ages, all abilities. And if some families could not pay, then it was like, okay, pay at your own time or don't pay at all, but it's low cost and $15. And the interesting thing is, one elder said, if we can't pay into it, that shows that we don't have an investment ourselves. And so we said, okay, since 2016, the organization has been charging only $15 to be a part of this 10 to 12-week walking, running program.
Wow. And the program itself, so is, even a dad of young kids myself, what's involved in the program?
So I remember your family came and we wanted you to come. And I know that you're very busy, but we really, thought of how families come, and we have 4 different, we have competitive, non-competitive, both for adults and young children. But it's also that competitiveness of being able to say, okay, yes, we can, have competition, but also we can just do this for fun. We can do this for the health of our well-being and for our families. And so it was having coaches that were designated primarily to work with our little children and for those that were really competitive as youth, and then to have another group of community coaches that were looking at adults who are both competitive and non-competitive. But they all came together. We all went to different groups, and then, everyone came back together. But there's a lot of cultural aspects to that, being that a lot of the Native American community love, community gatherings. And if it wasn't food, in our case, it was running and walking together. And so building that, we incorporated a lot of the cultural aspects of prayer, a lot of spirituality, really respecting everyone's backgrounds as far as their religion, their, education level, even their community, if they were from the urban setting or from the rural setting as well. And so it was just being able to feel belonging. And I honestly say, being a participant of this program myself, I've benefited. I've really enjoyed being a part of, a community where I can kind of walk away in the sense of the program ends and I'm like, where's my community? Where I need someone to talk to, walk to. So it really improves, I think, people's aspects of their emotional, mental, physical, social well-being. And it's not just running and walking, but we're able to have those times to be mentored, also to be, have that caregiver that's not our parents to coach us as well.
If there's somebody in your Native community that is maybe looking for for lack of a better word, motivation, or also they want to be a part of something, a part of a bigger community, how would they connect? How would they find out about these programs?
So they can visit the website at the Running Medicine website. They can also visit the Native Health Initiative. And Running Medicine has its own website because it's so large. There's actually, right now, I know we have program coordinators, but if they want to reach out to our executive director, Tanya Aber, as well, or Jules, Jules McCabe is the associate director, and those are the two they can contact for further information. But, you know, it's being able to be around a community that is also inclusive, and you don't have to be Native to join this organization, to, you know, join the just programs that are offered. We love everyone. We want to be inclusive. And so I think that's one of the other things is a lot of the people who do come, whether they're Native or not, it's like being reconnected to community and family. And we love to support them.
Which is huge. We both, I know, agree with that. That's one of the best things about Albuquerque is it is such a big melting pot of different cultures, different communities. So I love that you are inclusive to everyone.
Yeah. And as you said, you know, it's a melting pot, but we still distinct upon like the cultures and the
more of a
differences.
tossed salad.
Yeah, but it is. It's a beautiful thing, and that's what I think, you know, makes Albuquerque unique, because there's over many tribes that are represented. I mean, over 400 different tribal communities in the sense of, you know, tribal representation here in Albuquerque, and that's very unique.
How, this just on this really quick too, how do you handle the, do you go like to different places around town, or is it always in a particular location?
So there's two, I believe there's two sites. And again, because I've been removed for about a year, it's always, but when I remember, you know, with being able to have sites both on a downtown side and then the west side, I know there's also a group in Laguna Acoma, and there's probably other groups that are going to be coming about as well. And so it's not just the one-time event, but it's being able to meet, you know, 10 to 12 weeks in the spring, summer, and in the fall.
So I know that you are a mother of 4, and just before you got here, we were talking off mic. And tell us the ages of your children. And I really wanted to highlight your daughter, who I think is your oldest child.
Yes.
This is pretty remarkable.
So she's 15, and she's actually attending right now the Summer Policy Academy in Princeton University, and that is actually from the Santa Fe Indian Schools Leadership Institute, Policy Institute with Mr. Regis Pecos.
Yes.
So it's very, you know, exciting. So cool. But I have a 13-year-old son and then 2 other daughters that are 9 and 6.
You definitely are busy, outside of even all this stuff that you're doing for the community.
Yes.
And shout outs to legendary Regis Pecos.
Yes.
That is a great program that he set up. Very special. Well, tell us a little about going back to your experience, even as a mom and coming to Albuquerque, and the urban Native community, the interactions that we have typically is very different depending on where you're coming from, whether it's like Oklahoma or sort of a more nearby group. But, you know, tell us kind of how that works out in Albuquerque, and any advice you might have actually for folks moving in from a reservation. Yeah,
and I think that's it's very interesting. It's also how we self-identify when someone says they're from the reservation or they're a res kid. You know, it's really interesting because there are some dynamics I think people have to understand of what is a, you know, trusted person. Even if you're Native and you come across another Native, it doesn't mean that, you know, you're just going to connect immediately. It's being able to really watch your own boundaries, and being able to, when I say boundaries, it's knowing how respectful what gifting is, and being able to really share, you know, if you're going to share something intimate, what does that mean for the other person as well? And it goes for both Native and non-Native, is that we come from different cultures. I think especially here in New Mexico, having that there's 23 different tribes, and just because I'm Diné doesn't mean I'm automatically going to be accepted into the Tohajala, the Rema, or even, you know, further south, the Alamo community. There's still different historical structures, systems, and there's also different ways of looking at how I was raised and how they were brought up. And so it's coming to common core values. And I think that's one of the unique things about community is our core values that we have. And I know, like, just like you have at the city, you know, there's goals. We also have those goals as well. They may not be written, but they're verbal, they're oral, and knowing. And I'd like to say is, you know, I have to be honest with people when they really come to me and I say, I don't know. I really have to remind them, and I tell people, just be honest and say, you don't know, but you can get the answer.
Right. Right. And you're human after all. So even though you're the connector, you don't, I guess, always know it all. So that's good that you say that. And then I think it inspires other people to know that they don't have to know everything as well.
Yes.
But you can find the answer.
Yes. But I think cultural humility goes a long way also, having cultural awareness. And just because we know the tribes around doesn't mean that we know all about the Native Americans. It's like we have to also visit. And if we go to a visitor center, that's different than visiting the actual community or inviting community to come. And just like today, I'm here with you in your space. So thank you for allowing me to be here, but to share also.
Mm-hmm. Well, we hope, in some small way, City Hall is always everyone's space.
Yes.
And so for us too, I know on the education side, tell us a little bit about your work with American Indians for Opportunity and just, helping support our youth.
Yeah, I think that, my work has been in the past, and like I said, stepping away for about a year and a half from leadership in that way, but trying to reconnect as an independent consultant, but trying to work with community, with the American Indians for Opportunity. I worked with Laura Harris along with many other individuals on the Native Leadership Collective and the Native Leadership Collective, really, seeing a little bit of the city involved as well through Ms. Dawn, but being able to work with and see through meetings how we can have, a network of businesses, organizations, individuals who are natives, who are leading, who want something more for their urban community. And I know you're saying for the youth aspect, it's really a lot of the people who are working are older population, but it's for the younger generation. And so one of the big things that I know that the NLC was trying to create and is still trying to create is an urban Indigenous resource center. But, one of the things is saying, it's going to, take time. And what does that look like realistically? But who's going to be behind that? And it's getting all of these different Native-led organizations, community leaders, and it's also getting people, and politics sometimes funding the city of Albuquerque to support that as well. I know there's the American Indian Center, but we feel, I think, with the Native Leadership Collective, there could be more, and in terms of resources that could build capacity, could really look at networking, really see the community for all of the value of what is out there in terms of resources, not just for the community, but resources for everyone. And to shed light on all the businesses and the organizations and, the projects that are created for and with, and also, by the Native community.
You are a true asset to your community. And I think just continuing to talk about these programs and the stories and where people can help or where they can come and be part of the community is so important. I think that was what you were made to do.
Yeah,
and that's a beautiful vision for our city and what we need to work on.
Yes, and so the challenge maybe like, hey, how can the city and the city of Albuquerque support that? Is really looking at the aspect of resources and availability, not just for, like I said, the Native Americans, but it's really creating a directory. And so we may come to the city and say, what's the way that the city can support creating a directory that is actually about these Native organizations and businesses.
I love that idea. We also would love to remind folks just on this topic, if you're interested in getting involved, we have a Native American Advisory Committee that is a very cool, I know you know about this, but it's a government to government sort of honoring sovereignty relationship. So we have direct appointees from the surrounding pueblos and chapters, but also representatives from the urban community, urban Native community. So we need members for that, so folks can sign up, and we'll put up that information. And also, we do have an Office of Native American Liaison in our Office of Equity and Inclusion, and so Ms. Dawn's been wonderful. And so people can plug in that way, and I think that's a good. So there's some good projects that we should work on with both of those groups going forward. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for being on with us today.
Yes, and just to say, I'm thankful to be here as one representative, but there are other leaders, there are other gatekeepers that are out in the community and being able to address a lot of the issues. There's so much more, but thank you for allowing me to be in this space again.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And as you said, there's always more to be done. So we're always working on that as a city.
Yes. And one last challenge. I'd love to see you I know that you did a heart with my husband, so we have to do a
Oh,
heart
yeah.
again.
Oh, we must. We have like, oh, there we go.
I love it.
Love it. Running medicine.
Yes, and coming out, so you may be invited as well, both of you. To
I still need to run too, and
Yes.
I'm working on my Achilles. It's like had some issues. So, but I'm really missing running even personally because
I might have an
do it a
Achilles
couple of days a
thing,
week. Yeah, I know, but it's just on my mind, and it's therapeutic in so many ways. And so I usually jog in arroyos, which is like not like in the concrete ones, but it's raining.
No.
But on the sides, and when there's no clouds in the dirt ones. And but for me, it's just it's a wonderful thing that it's just energized me for decades now. And so cool, you can do it all throughout the middle of the city too, which is really fun.
It's wild. We are so lucky in that sense too.
Yeah, but just seeing you in the community, I think is a great thing for all of Albuquerque to see that you're there to support many events, and your office, if it's not you, then you have a representative, and that's always exciting, but it's also seeing that you're wanting to be there for the community. So thank you.
Oh, you got it. Thank you. Awesome. Well, keep up the great work, and we will continue to follow everything that you're involved in. Thank you.
Thank you
so much for being on today.
Yeah.
Thank you.
This has been another fantastic episode. I love doing this because I get to meet the most interesting people. So I've been having a great time. So thanks.
Thank you so much for listening, Albuquerque. And remember, it takes all of us to fulfill the promise of the city that we call home. We'll see you again next time on One ABQ and You.
Be sure and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and follow us at #OneABQandYou. If you'd like to share your own ABQ observations, experiences, or topic suggestions, reach out to us. You've been listening to One ABQ and You.